Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? And it's episode of Hard Knocks, episode 2, and I got my guy Jeff. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going great, man. Again, we're 1 week closer to football season. This was an overall better episode of Hard Knocks. I'm pretty excited about it. I think that I think it's going to turn into a pretty decent season of the show. So, all things considered, it's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to begin the show, before we start the show, I just want to shout out to our sponsors, SeatGeek, where you can get 20% off your next purchase. I'm talking about concert, football games, basketball games in the future, baseball, anything like that. Get $20 off using the promo code tacos and touchdowns. Tacos touchdowns, all capital letters. Go check that out and get you $20 off your next purchase. So, this episode 2, man, the beginning, the mentalist, or AKA magician. What are your thoughts on the magician?
Bro. Okay, so we did this last year. We did this last year with Detroit, and it's cool. And this guy, he even showed up. Like, obviously, he's got a contract. He showed up on a few NFL pregame shows throughout the year, and it's one of these things. It's one of these talents, and then I don't even really care like how it's done. If it's 100% legit, if it's not, I really don't. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't find it entertaining. And I was like, we're doing this again. That was my note. Was like, oh, really? We got more mentalist. Do I think like actually seeing it's pretty cool? Do I like it taking up 6 minutes of my show? Not really, but it is what it is. How about you?
Yeah, it was cool at first, and then sometimes I seen the reactions in there. They were like, and I was like, I feel like some of them were a part of it or something like that. But
Yeah, none of this season feels totally genuine overall. Honestly, I'm not saying anybody's faking anything, but there's a lot of extra.
yeah, it just like you could tell that some like we're gonna go into it. It just felt like they kind of prolonged some of these scenes.
I agreed.
Yeah, like this one you kind of could have cut in half. Like you said, 6 minutes. I feel like you could have bit it into like 3 minutes because
Yeah.
there's a scene that's a little more over prolonged than this one. At least this one was a bit
I
interesting.
think, yeah, I bet we agree on it. One thing I did take away from the Mentalist, though, it was in another note I had. It was cool to see like them go at Aaron Rodgers because he loves to be the smartest dude in the room, and it was fun to see him kind of got not be what I mean, like just be have to let his guard down a little bit, and that happened to him, and that felt good because he thinks he's a mentalist. I mean, let's be honest. It'll probably be it's going to be his new preseason next year, off season next year. Is he's going to like become a mentalist?
Yeah, I feel like when he retired, I think he's gonna want to be like a professor or something, like at his old school or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that.
we'll talk more about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was leaning towards that. And one real quick thing I'll say about the mentalist, and I'm a very skeptical person. It's
I
how it
get you.
is, but here's why. If everything this guy does is legit, that's awesome. Shouldn't he be like the richest person on earth? You
That,
see what I'm saying?
that's the point.
Like I never understand like how these guys, like whether it's David Blaine or this guy, like okay, if it's all legit, the why did you choose to use your powers to entertain NFL rookies? Why didn't you go into like or do something, you could, whether it's medicine or whether it's, why wouldn't you just be a judge? Why wouldn't you just be a judge and then figure out whether everybody's actually guilty or innocent? All these different things you could do rather than just do NFL pregame shows. Not judging the guy, I'm just asking the question.
They
Anyway,
probably, they probably say, "Well, the perks are just so nice being a mentalist for these athletes. I get to meet my favorite athlete, Aaron Rodgers."
well, I think him and Aaron Rodgers are kind of on the same page as far as like we want to act like we're the smartest person on earth, but we really don't want to have a job that needs us to be the smartest person on earth. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's great similarities between those two. A line of BS, as wide as your uh, beloved state of Texas.
Man, so the next thing I want to talk about, what do you think about I know it's like getting close to the end of training camp. What do you think about that fight that happened?
The fights. This kind of went back to the Rex Ryan Jets Hard Knocks. You know what was that? Oh, it's hard to believe how long ago that was. We're talking 15 years ago now. I don't know. I'm not this whole like we like to see him fight at the training camp. It's good for him. Couple theories on that. Actually, you know, as we record this, just earlier today, there was some big news in a couple fights in these these joint practices to where like, you know, guys got thrown out of practice and there's a couple possible injuries, some little things like that. So, you know, it's become a bigger story, you know, coming off of Hard Knocks, but I don't know. The fights are what they are. To me, this Jets team feels like they're trying too hard to act like, you know, they're the tough guy on the block and to assert themselves as Super Bowl contenders without actually playing. I would rather see them just kind of chill out and go into the season and then prove it. The way they're doing it's a little, like I said, it kind of reminds me of those Rex Ryan teams to where they're just saying, oh, you know, like they have this sort of arrogance that's not quite earned yet, even though I know they got a really good defense. And then the whole fight thing and they need to fight a little and they don't. I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of it is because you just don't hit as much in football now. Do you notice how, like, just even from like what we saw 20 to 10 years ago, even if you notice, like in practice, you just don't hit that much anymore, which I think is kind of a good thing because of just all the injuries you save and especially head injuries and stuff. But I think these guys are like always on edge because they never really get to like make full contact. So they're always just kind of being shoved. You know what I mean? Like, you'd rather just go out there and get hit. You're on the ground. You take the energy to get back up. These guys just have so much penned up energy. And, you know, and they can't blast their own dudes like you used to, you know, be able to. And I think you just get built up a lot of animosity and you're constantly just, the most you can do is just, you're constantly just pushing and slapping. And then finally dudes just snap. And I think to me, that's my theory behind the fights is that you just don't have all out hits and tackles anymore. You remember what it was like, you know, you're practicing against your friends or whatever, you get a shot at them across the middle, crush them. They're like, oh man, you get up. There's nothing more to it, you know, rather than constantly shoving and pushing and pulling into where you get to a breaking point to where you're starting to fight your teammates. They need to play is what I'm saying. They got a lot of pent up energy.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to linemen in general, you get constantly pushed every play and all that stuff by some big old sweaty dude just pushing you. And you know, those practices are like hours, like 2 hours. So imagine doing that and you just constantly, and sometimes they get a little extra just at the end of the whistle, and that's what is going to happen because like you were saying, they're not tackling or anything like that. They barely don't tackle until game time.
They barely tackle, and through the season, they actually only hit like a couple times in season practices. Like people, I don't know if like in not that I'm saying people don't, but they just might not know this if you don't like really follow the NFL like a crazy people like we are. They've outside of the games, you very seldom full contact hit in the NFL, like very, very little full contact anymore. And that's just like you're saying, AB, you just constantly, these big guys are just getting picked on every day. It's 90 degrees out. And then finally they're like, I'm going to take this dude and put him in a box. And then that's when you get some of that. And then of course you got you're always going to have receivers and defensive backs going at it. And a lot of that's for show. I don't know how many of these fights are, how much there is to them and how much there isn't, you know. Some of the stuff comes from the locker room too. There's a lot of, you know, these guys come from different schools all across the country.
Backgrounds.
I'll tell you, you get a couple of Ohio State, Michigan guys in a locker room. That's real. Like there's a real chip right there.
Oh yeah, and then when you see offensive linemen and defensive linemen going at it between different receivers and the defensive backs, for some reason, I don't know why receivers and defensive backs are always just flying and jumping at each other. Looks like some birds going at each other and miss. It looked like WWE type of stuff when it comes to them.
Yeah, it is totally different. The wild thing is everybody puts their helmet on and runs out onto the field. I did like the moment to where after fight, I believe it was during the Carolina practice when Rodgers, or maybe it was during that inter squad, but anyway, where Rodgers asked, I think it was Williams. He's like, man, did you use your hand? Did you actually hit, like, aren't you worried about breaking your hand? Because, you know, Rodgers and Sauce Gardner wanted no part of that interaction.
Hey, they're not the biggest guys in there, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, they got way too much on the line. Like, let those rookies, second year guys fighting for a spot, let them fight it out.
I can think there's only one quarterback in the league that gets into these fights, and that's like Josh Allen because he's built like a defensive.
I could see him doing it. Yeah, he gets way too involved with some of this stuff.
Yeah, and he almost got hurt a couple. It's like every year he's always in the scrimmage. I know he's 250, but you're the leading quarterback on your team. Like,
yeah, you gotta stay. Yeah, Rodgers, like, he knows his part. He's like,
he's like, I'm 40. These kids are like in their 20s full of.
I feel for him, man. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm 8 years older than Rodgers, but man, when I was 40, I would want no part of a 260-pound 25-year-old. It would have been over.
Yeah, I'm 7 years younger than him, and I don't. I didn't got to that point.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in those scrimmages. No.
Yeah, that's one thing that stands out about these Jets is like we're going to find out are they as tough as they are telling us they are.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be a big question going into the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying. You talked about Quinn Williams.
Yeah, that's what I got next on my notes. Is
what do you think about Quinn Williams in this show?
I liked him a lot. Honestly, I knew like last year, like, oh, he's a good player. That's really all I knew about him, is just like strictly like watching a couple games, a little bit of film, and being like, that's this new breed of these freak defensive linemen that can play, in every gap, and they disrupt the passing game, like the Aaron Donald mold. These guys, they're to me, outside of quarterback, I honestly think they're the most important players on a team now, as far as one player, the impact that they can have, because they can disrupt the whole passing game. It's a passing league now. We don't care about run stopping. We're not Gilbert. What was it? Gilbert back in the day with the Green Bay Packers, a big guy like
Gilbert something.
He held it down, in the middle, and like you couldn't run through the A gaps, and that's kind of gone now. So now it's like, if you can get pressure up the middle with one guy, then all of a sudden you can do so much more on defense. And he seems like the perfect guy for that. I enjoyed his personality too. I appreciate them showing like him getting the money and talking about it. Like a lot of players don't want to do that. I loved what he said about, like, if you're a bad guy and you get the money, you're just a rich bad guy. And if you're a good guy and you get the money, you're a rich good guy. I like his personality. I like his energy. He's obviously a monster. As a Dolphins fan, he concerns me deeply. But I thought he came off really well, and I was glad that they shifted some of the focus from Wilson and Rodgers last week and gave us a lot of cue ball this week.
Yeah, that was my biggest words. Like, we're gonna get a bunch of Aaron Rodgers scenes, but it kind of, they limited it this time from last week, where like we got to see cue ball, this big country boy that's just full of energy. He's funny, but when he's on the field, he's intense.
Yeah, he seems like the dude. You're more of a scout than I am. Do you know much about him before Hard Knocks?
I just knew he's just a disruptor in general as a player on there. He's a Bama kid.
That's what I was getting ready to say. So he was a big name guy. Okay, I'm starting to remember who he is now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was in the top 15 draft.
Okay, so I remember him now. A couple, I don't know when it was, 2 or 3 years ago. I remember there was a game and I watched Bama. For some reason, I'm probably crazy. I was thinking I'm thinking he had a low number on his jersey. I don't know why I think that, but I remember him being like, "Wow, that dude is owning this." Okay, that it all making sense to me. It might have even been, I don't know if he was on the team that beat Ohio State in the national championship, but it's coming back that there was a guy on the field and he was just wreaking havoc. And I bet it was him. That makes all the sense in the world.
It could have been that team. I knew Alabama got so much.
It's every year.
Yeah, defensive lineman coming out. This is just a short one. I'm still on Nathaniel Hackett as a weird dude.
They got a little more of the coaching staff this week, and here's the thing, it's funny and weird if your offense is going to be good, but he's coming off a terrible coaching season with Denver, an absolute disaster. So I don't know, like, Yeah, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm like, well, I don't like. We'll see how funny you are if we're 6-2 and your
Yeah.
offense is flying. If your offense is bad, then it's not funny anymore. So that's kind of where I'm at, is wait and see with him. I mean, the defensive coordinator, they talk about him a lot, but he showed up last year. Like, that defense was really good.
Yeah.
Hackett, I don't know, man. Feels like he's just like, he's got Rodgers there. He's kind of trying to do this, like, I don't know,
It's
bosom buddies thing, and
it is.
we'll
That's
see. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, man. His offense was. I haven't seen his offense look that good, so I don't know what the big deal is.
Yeah, just because he coached Aaron Rodgers, that's how I look at it. It was just those two where he had one scene where he flipped off Quinn Williams, and then during the preseason game, he said, "This offense is making me horny." I was like, "What did you say?"
He says a lot of weird stuff, dude.
I was like, Okay." But when it comes to the defense coordinator, Jeff Aldridge, I found out he played in the NFL for like 9 years for the Niners.
Yeah. I found that out today. I didn't remember him, like, not in a disrespectful way. I'm surprised I didn't remember a guy that played that long.
Yeah, he seemed like one of those coaches you'd almost run through a brick wall type of coach. Like he seems like that intense defensive coordinator that he's gonna get the guys going type of coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of buying into this dude because, again, his defense has showed up. So I can be like, this guy's cool, and he's got the the numbers and the players and the the stats to back it up. So I find it way more entertaining. Um, I enjoy listening to him. He seems like a really, like, legitimately, like, smart defensive coordinator. Like, knows he's got a plan. I'm definitely,
Yeah,
like, again, as a Dolphins fan, I'm definitely concerned about this Jets defense. I think it is going to be legit. Do I think it's going to be the 2000 Ravens? I don't know about that. But I think it's going to be very good.
yeah. That 2000 defense, Ravens defense is
Yeah. Fun fact about that, as a side note, to 2000 Ravens, because I watched the 30 for 30 of them recently, and it really got me thinking as they were showing the highlights through the season. I was like, man, something keeps popping up here. I guess I am taking something away from them, but as good a defense as they were, and they won the important game, so it doesn't matter. If you go back and look at the list of quarterbacks that they beat that season, it definitely tarnishes it. I don't care what anybody says. Like, there is something to the fact that, like, just a really terrible list of quarterbacks that they had to play that year. But then they got in the playoffs and they took care. They beat Steve McNair, and they knocked the guy from Oakland out of the game. Which, whatever you want to think about that, whether you consider that beating a quarterback or whether you consider that luck, I don't know what to say. But they did, they beat Steve McNair, and then, of course, then they get Kerry Collins in the Super Bowl. Just say it's worth going back, look at the 2000 Ravens, and look at the list of quarterbacks they beat. Much like the Eagles last year.
yeah.
Gives me some trepidation about the Eagles going into this season too.
Yeah, they have a tougher schedule this year compared to last year.
They got very fortunate, and quarterbacks everything, and just really look at starting quarterbacks that the team plays. And again, you play who you play, and that's great, but it's a real thing.
Yeah, I need to look into that schedule. I'm thinking of like the 2000 and AFC. It's a lot different when it comes to quarterbacks.
Well, their division, that the Steelers didn't have Roethlisberger yet. They had Cordell Stewart. The Browns didn't matter who the Browns had. Not just an endless line. There's been 15 quarterbacks start since I'll forget who was it. Anyway, in the last, like, not very long, the Browns have had like 15 quarterbacks start since it's in like the last 6 years or whatever. It's just, these numbers are stupid. So anyway, yeah, the Browns had nobody. Cincinnati didn't have Palmer yet. They were on I don't know, it might have been Akili Smith, or it was one of those. Yeah, that was 6 games. And then, if you watch down the list, the Jacksonville at that time wasn't ready. It's really not. It's really something to look at.
Yeah,
as good as they were, they were awesome. But they also had everything laid out for them very well.
All right, they had a really good schedule. Because you think about it, you're like, oh, they were really good defense, but then now you bring it up. What kind of quarterbacks are they playing
And
those years?
the Eagles did the same thing last year. And again, you beat who's in front of you. I understand everybody. We welcome the emails and the viewers and the listeners. And I'm just saying, like, you beat who you beat, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it still kind of pertains to Hard Knocks because they're one of the greatest Hard Knocks we ever seen.
Oh yeah, maybe the best. And again, it comes back to these Jets. So that's what I would tell people with caution. That's why I have the Jets a little, rated a little lower than everybody else. Their schedule is loaded with talent and quarterbacks on the other side. Like it's really murderer's row for the Jets this year.
Yeah,
But if everything works out and all of a sudden quarterbacks go down, then you might have a 2,000 Ravens on your hand.
True. And just if you look at the AFC, they're just loaded with star quarterbacks.
Yeah. There's not a lot of off weeks. It's really, really tough.
Yeah. So you're gonna see what the Jets are. But going back to it, I'm trying to look at my notes. I know getting into the preseason game when Coach Saleh pretty much was getting on to the offensive line.
Like, loved it.
That was my favorite part of this show. Like taking care of the elephant in the room is this offensive line when it comes to the Jets.
Yeah, when he got real with the offense about just what we're saying, like you've done nothing, like we were mediocre last year, like we can't do this. The defense, like when he's just laying it down for him, that was my favorite part so far of Saleh. Be like, okay, he's coaching. Like I know he's he turns the bright lights on, with the cameras and everything most of the show, which is fine. If you can do that and coach, I totally trust you to do it. But that was when I was like, man, that was a, some real truth, that he was saying. He wasn't blowing smoke up their butts anymore. I really thought he came off well. That's another scene that I'm like, man, this team's legit. It really is.
Yeah, because at first you thought Saleh was like that walking quote board, but when he did what he was saying out like the honest truth, he wasn't like just saying something to say something for the cameras. Because most of the time he's usually smiling or just looking like a proud papa when the defense makes a good play. He's like, I love that kid, but he honestly just told what was on his mind in that scene.
And I like coaches that are in really good shape because that's somebody that I mean, honestly, it just means you're not lazy. That means you're always working, your motor's always running. Like I like coaches that are in pretty good physical shape because that's always a sign to me of like, you've got energy, you don't have any downtime. Like you're always moving. And I know that if a guy's running or doing cardio, then that means he's thinking about the game plan. He's working. It's just one of my things I like. And I know that there's plenty of coaches that, are shaped like potatoes that have won Super Bowls, whatever. I happen to like coaches that are in like really good physical shape, just something. It's something, there's an intensity that it brings. And then a real quick note, I do want to get back to the inter squad stuff because I like that. The practice with the Carolina Panthers. I got some thoughts about the Carolina Panthers this season. Bet the under is basically the thing. But go back to McDonald getting all the stuff in his face. I don't know anything about this player. I think he's from Florida State.
Iowa State.
Okay, makes even more sense. And I don't mean that disrespectful. I just don't happen to know much about this player. I'm not even saying. All I know is this is what I learned about him. Like, I couldn't believe a football player would get that much stuff that could be torn out of their face. It makes me so nervous. You got eyebrow rings, you got nose rings. I don't know if you got. I'm like, all I can think is, you know what I mean? Like when that helmet gets pulled down over your eyebrows all the time. Like, and I don't think you take that stuff out all the time. I don't know much about piercings, but man, I'm just nervous for that kid. He seems like a wild card.
Yeah, like he had two piercings on the ear. He had like a nose and, like you said, the eyebrow.
He went off, dude. They were like running fish hooks through him.
Yeah, and I think you do got. I don't have any piercings, but I know you got to keep him in for a good time. So
that's what I was thinking. Like, I don't think he can take him out like for a preseason game.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell he's one of those guy. He seemed like a good guy. It's just like he does. He's different than the rest.
And here's the thing, and this is how much have we talked about this? If you listen to go listen to Morning Brew with Stu, and we talk about it with quarterbacks. A defensive lineman can afford to do this. He literally just has to go out there and destroy the other team's offense. Like he doesn't have to. He can be a wild card. He can be a free spirit. He can do whatever he wants. He can get stuff in his face. If he goes out there and sacks the quarterback, that's it. End of story. It's all that matters. A quarterback, if a quarterback, a rookie quarterback, starts Bryce Young, if they'd have showed him putting the stuff in his face, everybody immediately like, whoa, where's your focus and blah, blah, blah. Now, defensive linemen, they can do whatever they want, especially if they can run and jump, and they're as big as that dude. My goodness, is he a prototype?
Oh, you did see where he was on the ground and they were trying to reach out and he just jumped up. Oh,
it's hard to explain how, because these dudes are so lean now, I don't think, like, sometimes it doesn't come off on camera how big they are. I mean, that dude's like 6'5", 260 or some crazy thing like that in his wingspan. And, they're just, it's just a new world of athlete. That defensive line is 100% legit.
Yeah. That was in my other notes, like him and Jeremiah Johnson. I don't know if you watched, what was it? Last Chance U a few years ago. He was a part of that too. And he was a beast there. And then he was at Georgia, and then he ended up getting kicked out and went to, that school in Kansas.
Oh, okay. The one with the dude who got fired?
Yeah, Jason, Coach Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he went to Florida State and he was balling out there. And
nice.
Now he's back on the reality football now.
That must be the Florida State I was thinking of. I knew okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, they're loaded. I mean, that's a well put together off. Another moment real quick. We talk about the defensive line. I love that when Woody Johnson and the coach were having a conversation about Williams' contract, that was a rare kind of candid conversation. We got to hear about money, and Woody's being like, man, it's a lot of money. And Salah's like, well, I'm all for it. And Woody's like, yeah, me too, if it works out. You know what I mean? I thought that was a pretty cool interaction there between the two. Like Woody could have been like, oh, I'm happy to pay it, blah, blah, blah. He's like, let's see. Like, I just gave this dude $95 million. And $95 million. Defensive linemen, they're getting $95 million now. They just signed an all-pro running back with 50 touchdowns in his career, under 30 years old, for like $8 million a year, 1 year contract.
Yeah.
Interior defensive linemen get $95 million contracts now, AV.
Man, if my ankle would have kept going.
I knew that's what you was thinking.
Yeah, they're making big bucks now.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, the Jets signed Dalvin Cook for like $8 million for this upcoming season.
Yeah, just for basically nickels, and he still could
Dalvin, bro. He's just coming off of good seasons. He scored, like I can say, 50 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards. Man.
Yeah, and then the media and just in general, they're all saying, "Oh, he's on the decline because he's 28." But I'm like, he was still playing at a high level.
Yeah, he was real good.
Yeah, he was averaging over 4 yards per carry. I don't know where this decline was coming from.
Yeah, it was a good signing by the Jets. They're really doing a good job. I'd put him on ice until somebody got hurt. I mean, that's what I would do with running backs now. I would not be scared to save a running back till week 10. I really wouldn't. I mean, I don't think you'll see that right away, but that's what I would do. I'd like to have one. You get a healthy Dalvin Cook going in the playoffs. Like, that's a big difference than a banged up whoever you got.
Yeah. I think that's who I think they'll definitely have to have him in the next episode.
Oh, yeah. I bet he's got a good personality. He was always kind of fun, if I remember correct. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely be a good personality.
Well, they'll show him coming into practice, and people, they're going to be able to do all that, which is what's cool about this show.
Yeah, they're going to have some epic music. I got to give a shout out to Hard Knocks. When it comes to the music, some of the artists I never heard of, or you hear songs that you ain't heard in a long time.
Yeah, they kill it. They're doing the production value is really good this year. This second episode, I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. And you'll talk about some of the negatives of it here in a minute, like you alluded on. But I want to get back to that practice with the Panthers real quick. And of course, they're going off about how good they looked, and Rodgers, here's what I want to say about Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he is absolutely the best quarterback you can think of when he knows he can't get hit. And I'm being honest about that. Like, all these quarterbacks, when they absolutely – I just watched like Lamar Jackson throwing today. He looks great. Well, yeah, when you know you're not going to get hit or not get tackled. I'm not saying these guys are scared to get hit. I'm saying when you know you're not going to go down. the passing game opens up. So yeah, of course, Rodgers is going to, look like a beast. I mean, he's one of the greatest we've ever seen. Plus, he's not getting hit. And one thing I took away from that, Bryce Young does not look any bigger than I thought he would. I'm concerned for him. I'm concerned for his safety out there in the NFL.
I've seen that.
Best of luck, Bryce. But he looks exactly like I thought it would with Bryce. I thought it was cool. Rodgers and had that moment with him, and kind of went over. And of course, that's for camera. Whether Rodgers would want to do that, or he might have done it on his own, he might not have. But that was cool to see. But overall, I thought the Panthers, just the vibe I got from the Panthers is if this was their Hard Knocks, we'd be talking about how bad how bad the Panthers are going to be. Something does not feel right about that team. It feels like this jumbled mess of players that don't fit. They got the rookie quarterback, but it doesn't feel like they have a team that's building towards the future. Something doesn't feel right about these Carolina Panthers. I do not think they're going to have a very good season.
Yeah, they just pretty much put a team together just to say, okay, we got a.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you were saying about Bryce Young, you like his personality. He seems like a great guy to talk to, but it's just like he doesn't. I know they had him listed at like 210. I'm like, no, he is not he's not even 200 pounds.
It's just going to be so hard for him to play. It's going to be a lot of effort, just like we've seen with the smaller quarterbacks. It's a lot of effort. And by the time you get to week 17, you're just worn out. And that's my concern with him. I know it's the Jets. That's what I took away from that. I was like, they're talking about how great the Jets are. And I'm like, I have a strange feeling that most teams are going to look really good against the Panthers.
Yeah. And then did you see that scene with Will McDonald and that offensive lineman on the Carolina Panthers? He was like grasping ready, like, oh, you're going to be something great someday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what I mean. They're some two totally different. They're going two totally different directions right now. And then the last thing I saw about the preseason, the question I had for you, of course, Rodgers, was in street clothes. He's not going to play. I doubt he plays at all the preseason. The one thing the Jets need to do is get their offense going this year. That's the whole thing about getting Rodgers and everything. Can an offense learn to play without their starting quarterback? Like in the games, that seems like can they adjust in time? Can Rodgers step in week 1 and this offense catch up with playing with him just by the reps in practice? Or like does your starting quarterback we saw Peyton start Russell Wilson the other day and for Denver, does Rodgers need to play in the preseason for this offense to really get to where it whatever speed it needs to be for week 1?
I honestly think you need like a handful of snaps, because if you look at it, like you got the starting offense, but you don't have your quarterback. Like the center's got to know how to snap the ball because the quarterback has a certain way they want to do it.
Rodgers talked about that during the show.
That's one of the main things. Like I know a lot of teams are skeptical about when that happens. Like, oh, we don't want our quarterback to get hurt, but they're going to be playing in live games soon, so you better get at least about 4 or 5 plays in, a couple of run plays and a couple of throws in, because it's not gonna be crisp. It's gonna be looking wonky. Like, okay, are we gonna be a good team or not? But you're getting you basically at your preseason week 1 in week 1, but you should have at least got a handful of snaps.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying with their schedule. Man, I would be concerned if I was a fan about maybe giving up a couple games that we didn't need to. Again, I understand, not wanting to have your starters out there, but I just don't know if an offense can learn with a backup in, unless that backup is so similar. Which, come on, Zach is not Aaron Rodgers. Like they're not playing the same game. So like nothing that Rodgers does is going to replicate what Wilson does in there. You know what I mean? Like I just that was something I was just thinking about. I was like, man, I don't know. Can you get better without your players in there? And I'm with you. I think you've got to at least kind of even if it's just a feel walking up to the line and hearing stuff in the huddle. Because like we said, you don't hit, so everything is practiced. Basically, walkthroughs. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we're gonna know week 1.
Yeah, I kind of hope that Aaron Rodgers gets to play. I know. They only do 3 weeks now for preseason?
Yeah. Well, they got the Hall of Fame game, so they should have 4. I think I think the 2 Hall of Fame teams get 1 extra game. So really, this week coming up would be the time that Rodgers would play. The next to last preseason game, because the last preseason game, that's all that's all, the bottom of the roster. That's all you'll see in that game.
Oh, that's true. I mean, it seemed like it just got here. Now preseason's about to be over. Now we're
Yep.
about to walk
Yep.
into the real season.
Yep. So this would be the week if he's going to play. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Even if it's the right decision to sit, your starter, I still wonder if it still might hurt in the offense. That was my question, coming out, especially, I mean, and okay, they're running all the bells and whistles on Wilson. Like, we've seen the guy play the games. They're acting like he's really coming along this preseason. This is going to be a surprise. This is going to be one of these guys that, like, we're going to watch Hard Knocks. Zach Wilson's going to look like he's figuring it out. And then probably when we get to the last week, he's going to be QB3 or not on the roster. Like, I do not trust at all that Wilson's coming along like they're insinuating that he is. I don't buy it for a second.
Yeah. A couple of scenes, he came off a little smarmy and like that scene where they were like splitting between like, is this a pass or a throw? He said,
"Oh, Rodgers didn't like that at all."
Oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers said short change or something.
That was a genuine moment because we already know how Rodgers reacts to the young quarterback in the room. Like with Jordan Love, we saw it for 3 years. Like, he doesn't care. Like, I don't care what it looks like on camera. Rodgers is not there to groom Wilson, like, at all.
Yeah, he just tolerates Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not buying it for a second.
Yeah, and Wilson kind of comes off as like this bratty little brother.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Wilson's as unlikable as I thought he was at BYU.
That's funny that you brought that up because when you was that scene in the preseason game, he was like, "Hey, Dad," or something like that, and Aaron Rodgers was basically trying to ignore him the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, I don't think. Yeah, we'll see. We got like 3 more weeks of this, but yeah, I'm not buying the Zach Wilson is figured it out thing.
Nah, I just didn't even see that BYU.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be looking after another quarterback when it's
my prediction. Here's my bold prediction: he's not QB2 when the season starts. I think this is all fluff.
Yeah, I honestly think that
because this whole show's fluff.
Oh, it makes everybody look great, but there's some people that actually really are great.
Oh yeah.
There's some that are. Then there's that handful of ones you're like, are they really that good? But when you see them in a preseason game, like, okay, it's a big fluff show when it comes to them.
Yeah, they're really building these Jets up. Again, we talked about it last week. I'm sure that was part of getting them to agree to do it, which is awesome. The show's getting better. I feel better about it. After week 1, I was like, this is going to be rough. After last night, I feel way better about it. We got to see some cool stuff. Even if I didn't love some of the segments, we're a little drawn out. But overall, but I'll let you go here in a second. My overall takeaway too was I thought Rodgers came off better. I liked him better in this episode. I like how he basically is kind of like a coach now. It's kind of weird. He does, legitimately see the game. He's a brilliant, NFL mind and a great player. So I thought he came off better and a little more realistic. And we got to see some, decent moments with him talking to the center. You know what I mean? Discussing, little things like that, like of real stuff that I think, are more genuine than I did last week. So I thought Rodgers came off better.
Yeah, he did come off a lot better. He wasn't a smarmy. He was just kind of like being Aaron Rodgers, but he had that leadership quality to him.
Yeah.
But I still can't get past how Zach Wilson was in this episode.
Yeah. He came off even worse. But what that's funny, they might lean into that. We didn't get very much. We didn't get very much Garrett Wilson. We didn't get very much Sauce Gardner, which I thought they might lean in. So that gives me hope that each week they're actually going to take the most interesting stories and players of that week and give to us. Because I love meeting these guys. I love getting, to see Williams and McDonald, because I'm a fan of the game and I like these young players, and I'm glad that, they get a chance to show us a little personality and people introduce themselves to the rest of the world.
Do you think that Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers could be one of those top 10 quarterback duos this year, or maybe top 15?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's he's definitely going to be his number one receiver. Rodgers is going to be a top 10 quarterback if healthy. So it just, if nothing else, just by default, they'll have to be a really good duo. And Wilson is a legit, wide receiver too. He can run every route. He can make great catches. Like he's got a lot of tools. I don't think, as good as he is, he's not Davante Adams yet. But as far as skill set, the one thing that I see they have in common, and I said this when Wilson was in college and Adams was in the NFL, they're two of the best in the league at that first step off of the line. So Adams could get open quicker than anybody in the NFL in like the first 3 steps of a route. And Wilson's much like that. Wilson is a great, like on the goal line or, in the red zone, because he gets open so quick. He was like that at Ohio State. I mean, Wilson ran, he caught a touchdown one time on a fade route from the 3-yard line. The 3-yard line, he got open and got open for a fade route. Like you only have 13 yards. And he got open we know how much Rodgers loved, Davante. So I think as far as like Wilson's probably right at this age, he's probably 80% of what a great Davante Adams was for Rodgers. But I can see some similarities to where Rodgers will really feel comfortable with the routes and the type of throws that he can make and catch and stuff like that. So I think I think Wilson's basically damn near the perfect wide receiver for Rodgers.
I agree. If you just think about all the receivers that Aaron Rodgers had in the past, he had some really great ones in his whole career.
Yeah. And he's always had a guy too. I think Lazard's going to have a good season. I like Lazard at Green Bay. Whatever went on there with the other Green Bay receivers, nobody will ever really know. I have questions about how much Aaron Rodgers, there's a lot of bad tape on Aaron Rodgers not throwing to open receivers. That's all I'm saying. And forcing it to Davante Adams, which is basically what cost him 2 or 3 playoff games. I mean, everybody knows if you watch the tape. But I think this is a good receiving core for him. I think Lazard seems like a guy that'll have 8 30-yard touchdowns, maybe, you know what I mean? Like taking advantage of, what Wilson's dragging away. But just like anybody, Wilson's a guy that when Rodgers improvises, Wilson can get open. He can cut off routes and figure things out. He's really crafty receiver. That'll really benefit him too, because Rodgers likes those guys that break off a route and get downfield for deep throws and things like that. So yes, I would say top 10 duo.
Yeah, you definitely got to be a hell of a route runner. Have that short area quickness and get that separation when it comes to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and Wilson is amazing at it. Like he's a true he's been like that since he was a freshman at Ohio State. Like again, I watched every route the kids ran, and he runs routes. He's not just a great athlete at wide receiver that's learning. Like this is a polished guy coming in to Ohio State. When he left, he was even better, and now he's just taking it to the next level. I would imagine this season he'll be pushing for like all pro status.
I definitely could see that. And now you have Aaron Rodgers, your quarterback.
Right.
And the only thing they just need to work on is that offensive line. You can't really find
big worries.
That's the biggest thing is like you got to give that man some time to throw the ball.
I don't know if you heard today in their scrimmage, they basically said Rodgers got sacked several times in the scrimmage or the practice today.
Yeah, and then in that episode, what's it called? Quinn Williams said he. No, it wasn't against. Was it against them? Was it the inner scrimmage or was it against?
It was in the practice scrimmage. Yeah, when he said he had 10 sacks.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
It's like I don't know. It's like the Jets had this bad juju on their offensive line. It's like they can't get it all together. And I just hope Becton gets it together because they drafted.
Yeah, that was a cool little moment when Rodgers was talking to Becton and kind of trying to build some bond there because it's a concern. It's a legit concern, that offensive line, because again, tough schedule. You only have so much time to get it together. You don't want to get under with your division and how good the AFC is. You just can't give up that many games. You don't want to waste a season because you're shuffling your offensive line.
Yeah.
Rodgers will get frustrated with that too. Like I want to be clear that like I do not think that he's a guy that's he's not like we've seen Joe Burrow kind of take a bit of a beating, for a couple years, but he knows it's for the greater good and he gets up. Rodgers ain't gonna do that. I'm just telling you right now, he ain't about getting knocked down 8 times a game and fighting through it. He will be throwing balls in the dirt. He'll be spiking them. Like, remember Peyton Manning, like towards the end?
Oh yeah.
That dude wouldn't take a sack. Like, he was not going to take a sack. He just throw it in the dirt and play another down. That I'd say that we're at that level with Rodgers. Like, I do not see him trying to drag out a play and taking a unnecessary hit just because his left guard missed a tack or block or something.
Yeah. Joe Burrow. Yeah, Joe Burrow is younger too, and when you get that Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning age, they're not trying to take licks like that anymore.
Nope.
They're gonna let the offensive line know, like, you need to do something or not.
Yeah, and that changes your game plan. That's my biggest concern with the Jets. Like, I do not think that they will have that fixed, and I think that does affect a 39-year-old quarterback. So that's just, I know I'm not breaking any news here. That's what everybody says about him, but I don't think that they'll figure it out. That's why I've got him at 9-8.
Oh, you got him at 9-8.
Yeah, and I think a good 9-8, but I just don't see it. I think just because of both things, schedule and offensive line.
I got him at I got him at like at 10-7 right now, but we'll see. I think
the over under in Vegas is 9.5, so we're both
9.5.
right. We're both right there.
Shoot. I need to look at that, dude, because I don't have him like over 10 games winning this year.
Yeah, 10's my max, and like I say, I think it's a good 10. And I'm not even saying I won't get him in the playoffs. I don't know how this ever. There's going to be a lot of losses this year. The NFL is going to be tough, especially the AFC. I would imagine the best team might get to 12 wins, and then you're gonna have a bunch of teams at 11, 10, and 9. I think it's going to be a really tight season.
Yeah, that's why they kind of call it any given Sunday. We got to say any given Sunday, Monday, Thursday.
Yeah, any given day of the week.
Yeah, except Tuesday.
When teams of all, it's a copycat league, but it's smart. Get a really good quarterback. The rules protect them, and get awesome defensive linemen. They're the safest pick in the draft, and it's a combination of like, what gives, and like now the focus isn't that's what the focus is on, your defensive line and your quarterback. If you can get two of those things, like a lot of teams do very well with that combination.
Yeah, if you get a decent offensive line, that's even a plus.
Right there. If you get that, then that's why. I mean, we can talk about it sometime, but that's why I like your Cowboys more than a lot of people this year. I think they've got a pretty good combination of all the above.
It's the Cowboys, and people. It's a team that people love or they hate, so it's just that type of thing. So
I'm kind of neutral on them after all the years. I used to really despise them but then it just got to be kind of like, okay, I was despising an 8-8 team every year. I mean, just being honest, like it got to the point after like 10, 15 years after the Super Bowl, I'm like, okay, there's no reason for me to dislike this team. I have no stake in the game. Why do I dislike this team? So now I don't. Because I like Dak, and I like I love Micah Parsons, and I like how they built the team. I just had a conversation with a guy today, and I was like, Dallas has done it I shouldn't say quietly, but like because it's Dallas, quiet, really built this team through the draft and free agency over the last almost decade now, and really done a great job. So like, as much as we come down on them for quote unquote underachieving, also the credit we should give them for like what they've built, naturally, quote unquote, the right way has been really impressive. I like the roster that Dallas has put together.
Yeah, it's a really good roster, and the thing is, it wasn't just because we got these big name free agents. Like, this is actually our first year where we got named free agents, and Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. I'm like, I was surprised by that. We got them for like 5th round picks. I was like,
I'll just say it. I think, I know this isn't the Cowboy show, but I think McCarthy is the weak link. It really bothers me that, but we'll see. Without he's taken over now, and I'll see what the offense does. But I think the game's passing by, and I think he's kind of stubborn, and I think it hurts the Cowboys.
That's a lot of coaches, and it's definitely the year where he's got to put up or shut up type of deal when it comes to his offense. But I'm definitely can't wait for this next episode 3. Maybe we'll get some Dalvin Cook.
It's going to be good. This next episode is going to be good because we already heard that Rodgers got his butt kicked in practice today. So we know that's going to be part of the show.
That's got to be the beginning of the show, and
He's
then
going to crack eventually. He's going to crack and show us the real Aaron Rodgers.
It'll be this episode or the last episode. It's got to be one. It's either one or probably both.
Yep.
To be honest with you, and we need to see some more Sauce Gardner. I'm gonna end it off on that.
Yeah, I want to see. So I want to get to know the secondary this week. I want to know the secondary. Did you see our Deuce Staley showed up for the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Our dude, man.
Yeah, that's good to see Deuce again. It's like an old friend.
I want to get to know this Jets secondary. I hope this week is. I'm going to meet the secondary coach. I want to talk. I want to talk. I don't know much about them, so I want to learn more about the secondary. I got a good feel for the trenches. Got a good feel for the receivers. I want to get to know this secondary. Maybe some of the linebackers this week is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, because we got a little CJ Mosley, and that's about it. I want to know who CB2 is.
Mosley, man, that was what a really good player. I like that guy.
Oh yeah,
it makes me so mad though as a Dolphins fan. Like I watched this and I'm like so mad.
Yeah, you do see players you're like, I wish they were on your team.
We got a good roster though. We got a good roster. Dolphins fans have nothing to complain about as of this second.
Oh yeah, I got a good squad coming in.
Yeah, we got. I like our coach. I like the roster. Best roster we've had since Marino was there. I'm sure of that.
That is. I was like, y'all had some. I was like, yeah, y'all do really got a good squad.
The defense is quietly good.
Yeah, y'all do got a stacked squad on that defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially up the middle. Safeties, linebackers, pretty decent. Good interior lineman. If you're good up the middle in the NFL, you give yourself a shot. Make those quarterbacks, get it to the edges and see what happens.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it happens to be Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen.
Hey, y'all get to test them this year. Y'all do got some young players. There's not a bunch of old vets on the defense.
No, it's go time. AFC East can be brutal.
It's gonna be fun to watch. But
if the Patriots are good at all, it's going to be a knockdown drag out.
Oh yeah, Patriots will find some type of way just to be in that contention for the
absolutely.
playoff.
Meanwhile, the NFC South will be down there. Winner of the NFC South will be what, 7-10? I mean, I'm being totally serious. 7-10 win the NFC South this year. 8-9.
It's got to be.
You ain't getting a 10-game winner out of that division.
Nah, I can't think. I think 8-9 would probably be at.
I can't see David Carr winning. I don't know. Maybe the Saints put it together, and because they go 6-0 versus their, their division, maybe they pull off 10 wins. I don't know why we're doing a whole NFL preview. I'm sorry.
Oh, I might change it a little bit and say, hey, y'all get a little NFL preview as well. So
I'm just so excited, man. I am just jacked for the season.
Yeah.
And the rest of this Hard Knocks. I was excited. Like after watching this week, I was excited. They did again, drug out the mentalist segment too long. Aaron playing with the grass was cool, but okay. I don't know. But overall, quality is still good.
Yeah.
High quality show. Like you said, the sound is great. Schreiber's doing a great job. Of course, he's pumped up. He's apparently a Jets fan, so he's got a little excitement. But I don't mind that. I do not mind. It does not have to be an impartial show. I absolutely don't mind, people pulling or rooting or hyping up a team. That's what this is about. I mean, Detroit last year was just as big a fluff piece, but it turned out pretty good. They had a good season.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, and then they were just great.
Yeah.
We got a comment. Let me see what it is. Oh, okay. It's just some spam comment. I thought it was something legit, but never mind.
Spam be spamming, man.
Yeah, I know you put it on.
I thought it was going to be Zach Wilson's mom for a second. I'm not going to say why. I don't think it could have been good or bad. I thought it might have been Zach Wilson's mom.
Oh, it's all good. But I can't wait for this episode. But this has been Hard Knocks with AB and Jeff. But y'all have a good one.
See you, everybody.
Yes, sir.